There's a point in Rogue Genesia where your screen is completely flooded. I'm talking hundreds, maybe thousands of enemies. Your build is firing in every direction, numbers are exploding, and somehow you're still thinking, okay, but I can break this even harder. That's kind of the entire game. I'm Syrma and let's talk about Rogue Genesia. So Rogue Genesia sits in that bullet heaven space, think Vampire Survivors, but it doesn't just copy that formula. The big twist is structure. Instead of one long, endless stage, you're moving through a map that feels closer to Slay the Spire. You clear short stages, then pick your next node. Fight, elite, shop, rest, whatever you feel like gambling on. And that small change does a lot more than it sounds like on paper. It turns the game from survive as long as possible into something that actually has pacing, decisions and risk management between all the chaos. Now let's talk about the core gameplay loop. Moment to moment, this feels very much like a Survivor style game. You move, your weapons mostly fire automatically, enemies pour in from every direction. But what stands out immediately is just how dense everything gets. We're not talking a lot of enemies, we're talking absurd numbers on screen. And the game is clearly designed around that. And weirdly, it holds up pretty well. Not perfectly, of course, we'll get into that in the next chapters. But the core feeling of moving through massive waves is very satisfying. Where the loop really clicks is the stage system. Each stage is short, like a few minutes, tops. So instead of one slow ramp, you get these repeated spikes of intensity. Reward, decision, fight, choose a path, fight again, shop, fight again, and then into the boss. It keeps resetting your attention in a good way. You're not zoning out the same way that you might in longer survival runs. This is where Rogue Genesia goes kind of nuts with the build crafting and the run variety. You've got 60 plus weapons, 200 plus passive upgrades, a lot of artifacts, equipment, talents, meta upgrades, challenge modifiers, stacked on top of all of that. It's a lot. But the important thing is, most of it actually matters, and I think that is really important. Upgrades aren't subtle, they stack hard, they scale hard, they can change your run in noticeable ways. You can go full glass cannon with negative defense scaling, weird hybrid builds where defense scales your damage, and you can summon armies that just delete the screen for you, or hyperscaling nonsense that only works if you fully commit to it. And the game rewards this commitment. Half measures usually don't work. If you're going into something like defense piercing, you go all in or you don't bother at all. That's a good thing in my opinion. It gives runs identity. Also, small but important, very few upgrades feel completely useless. I think that is very important if you're talking about a game. That's rare in this genre as well. And if you're into this kind of break the systems until it collapses design, that's pretty much what this channel focuses on anyways. Digging into roguelikes that actually do something interesting with their builds and progression. Alright, back to the game though. The character system, or avatars as they are called, is another big win. These aren't just stat tweaks, they fundamentally change how you approach a run. You've got things like a gunslinger who can only use one gun at a time, a summoner that floods the screen with minions, a shop-focused character that basically turns leveling into economy management. And then your more standard you can use everything baseline character. Some variants even mess with core rules like limiting weapon slots but giving you stronger modifiers. So instead of just picking a character and playing the same game, you're kind of picking a playstyle puzzle each time. Now let's talk about difficulty, balance and the progression philosophy, because this is where things get a little messy but also kind of brilliant. First, let's talk about the difficulty. At a base level the game ramps pretty smoothly, but once you get into challenges, corruption levels and higher ranks, it gets brutal, speaking from experience here. And not in a precise skill check way, more in a numbers go insane way. Enemies scale hard, you need builds that scale even harder. Which brings us to progression. There's a lot of meta progression in here, like a lot. Soul shop upgrades, unlockable cards, talents, gear systems, and yes, it absolutely makes you significantly stronger over time. This is not one of those pure skill roguelikes like Potato. You will hit a wall if you don't engage with the meta systems. Some people are going to hate that, and I can totally understand that. Others are going to love the long-term grind and optimization. Absolutely. Personally, I think it works here specifically well because the game leans into it. It's not pretending to be balanced around zero progression. It's built around you eventually becoming completely overpowered. If you're coming from Vampire Survivors, for example, the biggest difference is the pacing and the structure. Remember this Slay the Spire kind of node system. If you're coming from Soulstorm Survivors or Hall of Torment, this is probably has a little bit more systems and even long-term depth if you consider the grind of Soulstone Survivors a bit boring. But also a bit more chaos as well and less immediate clarity. It feels like an evolution of the genre, not necessarily cleaner, but definitely bigger or, in my opinion, also somewhat deeper. Visually, it's actually pretty nice. That 2D meets 3D look works. Effects can get ridiculous and watching your build go off is satisfying. But the sound design is weak, I have to say that. Hits don't feel as impactful as they should. Music kind of blends into the background as well. And performance can dip when things get completely out of control, which they will. There are settings to tune things down, which helps, but yeah, it's not flawless in the presentation for sure. So now, who is this actually for? This is for you, if you like breaking systems more than mastering mechanics. You enjoy long-term progression and unlocking everything. You want a Survivors-like with way more depth and structure. This is not for you, however, if you want tight, skill-based combat. You hate grind-heavy progression systems and or you prefer clean and minimal systems over whatever this is, because of this game is not minimal in any aspect of the word at all. Rogue Genesia is kind of ridiculous, in a good way in my opinion. It throws an overwhelming number of systems at you, and instead of collapsing under that weight, it mostly holds together. The build variety is excellent, the stage-based structure genuinely improves the formula, and the replayability is honestly kind of insane. But it's not perfect, meta progression is heavy, balance can get weird, and presentation isn't carrying the experience. But if you click with it, this is the kind of game that just keeps going. Easily one of the most content-rich games in this space, and if you're into roguelikes that lean more into this build crafting and long-term progression instead of just raw mechanics, this is absolutely worth your time. And if that's your thing in general, there's more reviews and tier lists and all that good stuff on this channel. Same kind of deep dives, just on different games. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.